Hello, Jonny. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Happy to meet you here and happy to hear something about multi-site usage. Can you tell us the multi-site story? How you got involved in it?
So I've been using WordPress for 13 years now. I started on my personal blog and loved it. And I kind of made a career out of it. I worked in an agency for a while, for 4 years, and then I moved to Time. So Time in the UK is the UK's largest magazine publisher. Time's obviously one of the world's biggest publishers. You have Time magazine, these other big brands, and it was a massive step up for me to go from working at a relatively small agency to working on this massive WordPress site. I just really I felt very sort of panicked. I didn't know very much, and I spent probably 3 months of my life really deep diving into WordPress. So I felt I wanted to know it deeply. The project was a multi-site project, so Time Inc. has got 60 magazine websites that they have there, and it made sense that it was a multi-site. That it was one theme with lots of customizer options, so you can massively customize it. It was all widget based.
So it was 60 websites in the one instance of WordPress.
One instance of WordPress.
Right.
But when I started the project, it was only meant to be for sort of smaller websites. So originally only meant to be 30 sites. Sort of the ones that they didn't care about as much, sort of the smaller brands, because they were costing a lot of money to maintain separate different instances of WordPress. So it made sense to bundle them all together into one install of WordPress. By the time I was leaving, it was such a nice platform. It was so easy to customize and so easy to use. Even the bigger brands like Enemy and Eclair, Looking and Style moved over to it. So I was quite happy by the time I was leaving, as big as it was. But using WordPress at scale, we had lots of training tools like New Relic, and I looked at the data and found bugs, things that weren't working properly, and things that weren't caching. So I went along to a contributor day, wrote my first patch, and kind of ever since then, that was 4 years ago, and now I'm a maintainer of multi-site. So yeah, it's been a kind of a crazy ride from this guy that I felt like I knew nothing to now being an expert in my field.
And making the things happen right now. And what was that patch about? What was that problem that you found solution for?
In core, you've got the blogs table, which is where all the sites are kept, and all of there was I think about 45 places in core. It was doing raw SQL queries on that table with no caching on it, which is a massive problem, obviously, because there's no caching on it. So I wrote my first sort of big patch was WP site query. So that's a new query class, very similar to WP query, but query that table that had caching built into it. And then all the patches after that was converting all those raw SQL queries to use WP site query. So they all go through one. It actually removed a lot of code instead of doing a lot of raw SQL. It just did it in one place. It was nicely cached. Which as a first patch was massive. It was 2,000 lines of code. Most people's first patches are one or two lines.
That's a very, very useful improvement.
But yeah, I remember going to WordCamp London and sitting there with my headphones on, and I didn't speak to anyone the entire day. I just sat for 8 hours on code. And then I didn't even finish that. Then I went home and did 3 more hours of coding. It took probably 11 hours to build it. And then probably took another 6 weeks to get it merged, so I was doing patches and stuff. But yeah, as a kind of a big first thing to put into core, I was very proud of that. So it was such a big thing to change. That was my first thing.
That sounds amazing. And do you have some special project in your mind that you want to tell us about, built with WordPress Multisite?
So the project I worked on at the time, probably the most interesting thing I've worked on. That was both multi-site and multi-network.
Multi-network. The multi-site of multi-sites?
Yeah. It's a massively hidden piece of functionality, so if anyone that doesn't know, WordPress also has the ability to not only break into separate sites, but into a network of sites, so you can group the sites together.
Why did they choose or it was your suggestion to use?
So it was my suggestion. So from a business standpoint, Time is a really big company, got 60 magazines. They're all broken into departments, right? So you've got like women's brands, men's brands, sports. They're all separate things, and there was some value in having the ability to have sort of super admins on one network because they would be the managing director of the sports brands, but we didn't want them to have access to the women's brands or the men's brands. So breaking it into multiple networks was the best thing. The thing with that as well was we tried to keep it one platform, but then kind of segment it off into different sections. So there's a plugin called HyperDB, and that's used for partitioning tables. So that's originally written by Automatic, but when I came to look at it, it hadn't been maintained in like nearly 5 years, so Automatic basically had abandoned it. So we started using it and we found some bugs, we pushed them back to Automatic. I even bugged the people that I knew.
So you adopted the plugin?
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a fork of HyperDB that's called LudicrousDB, and we use that to sort of partition the databases. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people were frustrated by multi-site by is everything's in one database. But it's very easy to like break it off into multiple databases. So for every network, all of the sites were on one database server. So we had 4 networks, 4 different departments. We broke them off to different networks. We had one global database that had like, users and stuff that's global for everything. But then everything was broken up into separate databases, which is kind of a really interesting use case for multi-site, the ability to have a shared code base, but then you don't have. So you know, the worry is that if you have everything in one database, if that one database falls over, then the entire platform goes down.
Right.
Whereas being separated, you get sort of only one sort of type of site will go down. One type. And I'm reliably told that they've even broken up into more partitions. So now the bigger sites like Enemy and Mary Claire, like the high traffic sites, they're on their own database servers as well. So there's now like 8 databases.
So it's more secure for them?
Yeah. So the idea is that you don't want to take the whole site, the whole network down.
That sounds great. And were there any obstacles during developing this project? Some problems that you have to overcome, predictable or not?
Yeah. So I think the biggest problem for me was feeling like it was unknown. So I built that like 4 years ago when multi-network was this massively hidden feature, and I just sort of stumbled upon the multi-network plugin. I was like, I didn't know this is even a thing that I could do. And it really panicked me that I was doing something that felt really unknown on such a high scale, because if it fails, then it fails. Everything fails. But it was just a matter of doing the research, having testing environments, running scaling tools against it to make it have confidence to be able to launch it.
Yeah, so it's a kind of high responsibility for the developer to develop multi-site, right?
Yeah. The other big one we had with that project particularly was maintaining different aliases for the sites.
Right.
So
they're top-level domains?
Yeah. So you have like obviously you have enemy.com, but we had like at least 4 different environments we had to have the sites on. So we had like a pre-prod environment, user set environment, a dev environment, a local Belgrade environment, and we wanted it so we could just take the database and dump it into different environments and it just worked, which is very hard in the WordPress space because there's so many hard-coded references in the database to, if you're interlinking, which a lot of the articles were doing, you want to not pick out the live site. I thought I used a plugin called Makeda, which is a domain mapping plugin that Human Made makes, and I also added some stuff on top of that so that basically in the database it always stores. So if there's a link, it'll always remain example.com, and then using filters, I would switch it to be the domain that you're currently accessing it on. So if you're accessing
on the flow,
on demand, it changes it.
Right.
Using a filter. That was really cool because it means you could just literally just take dump databases and move them around, and it made it really portable. So I think that's one of the big issues I have with multi-sites is domain mapping and sort of domains out.
Great.
Yeah.
And like kind of resume. How do you feel about the experience of making of using multi-site for publishing houses? How did the client feels about using the multi-site from their side?
So they wanted to use WordPress because WordPress is such a great user experience from the admin standpoint, and they'd gone down the route of doing custom CMSs before, but they were never great because you're always just doing for requirements. Whereas with WordPress, you just get lots of shiny things that you would never work on as a business. Like, I know it's silly, but like embedding YouTube videos is unbelievably easy in WordPress. You just take the link and put it in. A business wouldn't spend their time to do that because it's just a nice thing that you can get by without. But you get so many nice features with WordPress. Publishers love it. I think the key problem with using multi-site for that project was because the sites were basically one template was customizable. Each brand didn't have their own custom content.
Right.
And we had to make some sort of sacrifices with that to say, look, we have to keep this generic enough so that everyone can use it. You can't have your own whiz-bang header. It doesn't make any sense because if we start giving you a header, then this guy wants a header, and this guy wants a footer, and this guy wants a sidebar, and then we're to the point where all the sites are completely different, and why are we doing multi-site?
Right.
So it was about making things as customizable as possible, but within constraints.
Great.
But what was interesting was, from an editorial standpoint, a lot of the times they would like to blame the technology team if their website wasn't a success. They say our website isn't very good because it doesn't look like our competitor's website. You go, okay, all right, I don't believe that, but let's see. So we migrated Cycling Weekly to it, and within the first couple of months, they four times their traffic, which is amazing. 4 times the traffic, just by putting it onto WordPress. And then we'd have other brands that would move over, and they wouldn't do as well. And they would say, well, your platform is bad. And I say, well, no, it's not. We've moved these brands that have got good content strategies onto the platform, and they're doing great. But ultimately, people don't care. As long as the site works in the browser, they don't really care what it looks like. They care about the content.
About the content and about the usability?
Yeah. As long as it's responsive, that's a big thing. Responsive. It works on my phone, and the experience isn't terrible. It can be horrible colours that people wouldn't care. They'll just read it because they're almost design blind. They just want the candy, they want the text, right?
They came here for the content.
Yeah. So why don't you just ask me the question? What do you think the future of multi-site is?
Yes. What is the future? Matt was talking today about the future of WordPress in general, and it was about the JavaScript future for WordPress.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's interesting. How do you feel about multi-site? What is the future for multi-site?
So I think Matt touched on the idea that going forward will be much more JavaScript experience in the admin terminal. And I think going forward, the PHP will just be to produce a REST API, and then all the user interactions will be in React. So I can imagine where you have a future where the entire admin terminal is a React app, which is kind of an interesting idea that you'd separate the visual aspect completely from how the data is handled. Mm-hmm. And it could mean, like Gutenberg is at the moment, you could take the UI of the admin terminal and then use it in a different project, and the PHP and the React could live as separate projects almost, which I think is incredibly interesting. But to get to that point, we need to make the APIs much better. At the moment, the API.
Did I get it right? It will make WordPress Multisite platform agnostic.
How do you mean?
That you can get information from WordPress Multisite from any other website using WordPress REST API.
Yeah.
Right.
So at the moment, we should have APIs to do everything you can do in the admin terminal, but they aren't there. So there's some very obvious ones missing, activating themes and plugins. There's no APIs for that. Menus is a weird one that's also missing. Widgets is also missing. But from a multi-site standpoint, the biggest ones are networks, sites, network options, and then now we've got a new table we've added into core in WordPress 5 of site meta as well. None of these have API endpoints, which is a real shame. So what we're working on as a core team is to try and standardize a lot of this code, because the code is very messy at the moment. Add standard functions like WP insert network, WP insert site, so the naming's a bit clearer and the arguments that's sent to it are more standardized to WordPress. And once we have all those CRUD functions, CRUD is a great error, edit, delete. Once we have all those functions in, we can then leverage all those functions in the REST API. And then generating the REST API endpoint will not be difficult. Like, you could basically copy like the network's endpoint and just get flow from different sources. But the problem is the functions that API would use are not there at the moment. So there are tickets, and we're very actively working on making the whole developer experience from Multisite much better.
So this is the most closest roadmap for WordPress Multisite development, right?
So we worked on a roadmap for over a year. We published that on the Make.org blog. I think that was at WordCamp US. We published that. It's on a Google Doc, but I think you can get it as in the blog post as well. It's a still evolving thing, and we're trying to work on things in it, because everything has to be worked on in order, because we need the functions there to work on the APIs. So we had to build a roadmap. And I think I'm very proud of the Multisite team that we actually have a roadmap, because it feels like a lot of the other teams don't have a roadmap. And we're telling you, look, this is where we want to be in like 2.5 years. Come on the ride with us, you know. And if you don't agree with the roadmap, you can help change it if you think it's something better that we should be doing like that.
Thank you. I will definitely do this, because it's like an honor for me to take part in developing something that I already love.
Yeah. But there's so many ways you can help out. Even if you don't want to be making patches, being part of the conversation is really useful. Like, just having another head to look at this stuff, because it's quite a small team that works on it. You've got me, Felix, Jeremy, JJJ, John Blackburn sometimes help us, but that's only 5 people, and we're not always available, you know, because many of us are freelancers and we don't always have time to attend the meetings and stuff like that. But if you can help, anyone can jump in and help, just by looking at tickets and talking strategy and how we should do stuff, and thinking about, you know, there's so many different use cases for multi-site. People are using it a lot now to have apps, so you can have, use it as basically
Startups or something.
Yeah. If you had, you could have an iPhone app that spin up a multi-site, and you can use that as sort of WordPress as an endpoint. Never actually use WordPress. A lot of people using multi-site for multiple languages, and there's so many different use cases, and there's so many hidden ones that are not even in our minds, you know. And WordPress multi-site is so customizable. There's so many ways you can customize it. It's so valuable to have people that are using it and are doing weird and wonderful things with it, to give us feedback. Because if we assume that everyone's doing it this way, but then you're doing it this way, and we make a change that breaks your stuff, we don't want that.
Thank you, Jonny. It was super useful, and it was a pleasure for me to meet you here at WordCamp Europe. Thank you very much.